All right. Good morning or good early afternoon to everyone. We want to get started here in just a second. My name is Patrick Bozick, and I am here with my colleague John Baker. Today, we're going to be showing you the easyDITA editor. We're going to try to keep this presentation as brief as possible. We like to keep our webinars short and sweet and to the point. So hopefully, we're going to be at about 30 minutes for this whole thing, including questions. And with that, whenever you are ready, John, take it away.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the release of our new easyDITA editor. We're very excited about the new capabilities that we've added and what those mean for our customers. My name is John Baker, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at easyDITA. I get to see a wide variety of use cases from my interactions with our team and our customers. Now, through all of that experience and all of those interactions, one thing always stands out to me. Content management can be a mess if you don't have the right tools. Now today, I want to take some time and look at the ways in which easyDITA stands out against the crowd. Now for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to focus on the things that are different from previous versions of our editor. However, if you want to learn more, I'd encourage you to reach out and ask for a personalized full demo of the software in its entirety. We have some really amazing customer success managers here who'd be excited to give you a complete tour of the system. Now, before we jump into the demo of the new editor, I have a couple of housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to that recording once it's completed. Next, if you're not sure about what exactly DITA is, don't worry, we've got you covered. We've got a guide ready for you. Included with the recording will be a link to our Getting Started with DITA guide. It includes a brochure and a webinar link that really breaks down DITA in a really helpful and understandable way. And finally, we'll have some time at the end for questions, so please feel free to type them into the question box on the right-hand side. Now, without further ado, let's jump into some of the new features in this easyDITA editor. Now, for the purpose of this demo, we're going to be spending a lot of time in this user guide. This is a very large DITA map, and there's a couple different ways you can open it, including have it open into a new tab, but just for now, we're going to open it simply by clicking here. Now you'll notice over on the left-hand side, you have all of these topics and all of these submaps. If you click and continue to extend this hierarchy, you'll see it goes quite deep. This is a very large map, but despite that, the topics loaded in just a couple of seconds. Now I'm going to take some time, and I'm actually going to scroll down, and you'll see that these other topics that are grayed out, that's because they haven't loaded. So I'll stop right here at this topic toolbars toggle, and you'll see in just a split second that topic was able to load. Now the reason for this is easyDITA's on-demand dynamic loading system. Essentially what that does is it prioritizes the topic that you've scrolled down to rather than spending time trying to load up all of the topics that you don't necessarily need right now. Now to show that, you'll see as I scroll up, these topics still haven't loaded. And that's because I haven't stopped on any of them. But on any given topic, if I were to stop on it, it will load it. Now this saves writers a significant amount of time. Instead of having to wait for entire maps to load, or in some cases having maps so large that their system might not even be able to load it, they're able to jump right in, go to the exact topic where they need to work, and work from there. It saves them a lot of time, and it's just a much more efficient way to operate inside of this system. Now, there's something very important that I want to call out at this point in the presentation, and that's just a reminder to everyone that this is XML. This is DITA. When you write or you edit in easyDITA, you're working directly with XML in real time. This editor is simply the fastest thing in existence for editing DITA content. Now, this speed carries over from the individual writer to the organization as a whole. And that's because this editor is also the first DITA editor that allows fully collaborative writing and editing. Now I know it's easy to hear this and just think it's a buzzword, so I want to define it to you all. What do we mean when we say that easyDITA is fully collaborative? Well, the first aspect of that is that it is real-time contribution. That means that you can have multiple authors, you can have your entire team of writers working on the document at the same time without slowdown, document locking, check-in or check-out, Writers, reviewers, subject matter experts, they can all interact within this map and topic at the same time. Again, easyDITA is the only DITA editor that allows simultaneous editing within the same topic. We also thought it was important that the system is easy for anyone to use. Now, if your software is hypothetically collaborative, but it's intimidating for your less experienced users, you don't actually have collaboration happening. easyDITA's streamlined and familiar interface means that contributors don't need extensive training, and if they've used other editors such as Microsoft Word or Google Docs, they can use easyDITA. Finally, we also think it's important for a fully collaborative system to be a single source. Now, if your editing is taking place on copies, then it's not true collaboration. With easyDITA, the document you collaborate on is the absolute authority document. No more questions about versioning or confusion about ownership. The topic in easyDITA is the standard. Okay, so now that we've had the opportunity to really define what we mean by a fully collaborative editor, that's enough about the big picture. So what does this actually look like in practice? So as we come back to the topic view of our editor, you'll notice that there's actually another cursor here, and that's for another author who's also adding content in easyDITA. So while I can click over here and I can start adding some content, you'll notice that my coworker is also able to add content simultaneously. This is what that real-time collaboration looks like in practice. If I can jump over to other topics, I can start adding something here. Now you'll notice up here in each topic that it shows a little icon, the screen icon, and it has a number underneath it in this case, and that indicates how many other authors are in at the same time. Now if my coworker exits out, you'll see that that group and the number disappear and it just goes to one single author. That indicates how many people are inside this topic while you're working. Now at this point, I think it's really important to talk about some of the other ways in which your coworkers, your team members can collaborate within this document. So one of the big changes we've made to easyDITA is that up here, you'll see that there are actually 4 different editing modes. Let's start by checking out the viewing mode. Now it says right here, you're currently in viewing only mode. What's unique about this is that, as you would expect, this allows you to look at the content within the topic, but you're not actually able to interact with any of the content itself. This is ideal if you have members within your organization who need to see the information, but shouldn't necessarily be the ones to interact with the documentation. Now, next, we also have this commenting mode. For this one, if someone is to highlight a section, they have this icon over here where they can right click, and in either case, it pops out this review tab, and they're able to add a comment or tag a coworker, choose from a list, or type in the name itself. You can then save this comment and the user will be notified that they've been tagged. Now the next mode that I want to talk about is actually suggesting mode. Now with suggesting mode, your users can add tracked changes to the document. These changes appear in these colored text. Now these changes aren't actually applied to the document unless they are accepted by an editor at a later point. Now, this mode is very helpful if you have subject matter experts and you want them to be able to add their review or their edits to something product specific, but you want those changes to later be reviewed by an editor to make sure that they're appropriate for the documentation. Now finally, the last mode that I want to go over is simply editing mode. Now editing mode is what we all associate with this document, with document editing for writers. It allows them to make direct changes to the source content for the documentation. Now at this point, I think it's important that we take a moment and talk about the view modes. So you'll see up here with this gear icon, we have a couple different options for changing the appearance of these topics. Users can decide whether or not they want to have the topic toolbars appear. Maybe they prefer to include the prologue at the beginning of each topic and find out some useful information such as the author and sometimes the keywords. Or in the case of many SMEs, they actually prefer the smooth view, which removes the space between the topics and gives it more of a PDF feel that they can seamlessly view through. And then finally, you can also hide section indicators. Now, this is really up to the preference of the individual. They can find whichever combination of selections that they prefer to work with. Now, throughout this webinar, we've spoken a lot about the different ways that easyDITA tries to make this process simpler for reviewers to be able to jump in, add their feedback, and get out quickly. One of the final things I want to show you that really reinforces this is the easyDITA review widget. Right up here, you'll see if I hover over this blue button, you have these different options pop out. This blue button simply lets you jump from one topic to the next. So by clicking it, you're able to go further down the map, topic by topic. This green one takes you to the next comment in which you are mentioned. So if I'm going to click on this, you see right here, this takes me to a topic, the filters tab, where Jared left me a comment. He tagged me in it and he said to make this a conref. Now likewise, when clicking on the review widget, you see this one will take me to the next open comment. If I click that, it'll just take us to the next topic. If I open up the review tab, it simply takes us to the next topic where there's an open comment. And finally, this red scary button indicates the next issue. Now, you'll see further down here, this tick mark. Now, these are validation issues that appear. So if I click on that, it takes me down to this tick mark. Now, before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about this next section. So we've had a chance to look over what the super fast editing looks like. We've gotten to talk about what the fully collaborative editor looks like. And now it's time to talk about some advanced user functions. Now, when we say advanced user functions, what we're referring to are power users and the things that they find valuable. So while some of the other things that we've talked about today will appeal to a broad base, these things that we're going to go over now are really intended more for those heavy writers, the authors who spend a lot of time in our system and are looking for tips and tricks and different methods to help them accomplish their goals in a more efficient manner. So now the first thing among these advanced user functions that we'll spend some time talking about is that real-time validation. Now with easyDITA, there's always validation that's running on throughout the entire document. You don't need to put your document through the publishing process just to find out later on that there are any structural issues within your document. Now, so here we see, like we mentioned before, here we see that we have this tick mark that also serves to show us both when there's a validation issue and a little bit of information about the error. It also provides some direction about how to fix it. So here now we see it says that there's an unexpected element and the validator encountered an element or step result which was not expected to occur at that place in the document. So it also recommends that we open the source to fix the issue manually. So we see here that there's something within the back end of the XML that needs addressing. So fortunately, easyDITA now allows for authors to edit the source code in a side-by-side editor. So right here, we're going to click Edit Source. And this brings up this side-by-side editor, where you have on the left side, the XML on the back end, and on the right side, the rendered topic. Now, WYSIWYG editors are amazing, and they have great advantages for usability, but sometimes you just need to get under the hood of the document and take a look at what's happening behind the scenes. Now with this side-by-side editor, you can find the issue, make your changes, and then save your work, and then you will see the rendered topic to ensure that you got it right. So let's look over here on the left side. We see here that this validation issue is happening in this section. So we're looking for the phrase, click X to reject the change. So we can come over here. So right here is where the issue is happening. So if we're looking this, we see that there's a step, command, step result, and then an end to the step result, and then it goes just into another command and step result. So right here, I'm just going to add, make sure that we end that step, and then we start a new one in this section. And hopefully that should fix the issue, but we'll find out right over here. and click Save. And there we go. Validation issue is gone. We see that we've added another step to this process. And so now, seeing that we've fixed the issue, we can save and close in the side-by-side editor. So now we see that the validation issue is gone. Now, as I demonstrated, there's the way for the real-time validation monitor that helps to identify and address these structural problems within your document. But we also now support schematron enforcement as well. Now with schematron running in the background, your writers are able to be immediately informed if they create a database structural error or if they violate a style guide rule. So if we jump back up to the top, we'll see here that actually this yellow right up here actually left a schematron issue in here, this yellow. So here, this falls under a style guide issue. We have our schematron set up so that if you use a numerical number instead of the word, it flags it and shows it as an issue. So simply by coming over here, changing this to the word 2, and there, the schematron issue is gone. Now this function is helpful in that it can save your writers a lot of time with the reviews and the correcting small things, but more importantly, you can ensure a greater level of consistency across your company's documentation. Now as we're nearing the close of this webinar, there are just a couple more of these functions that I want to point out to users. The first one is something that often goes behind the scenes until disaster strikes, but now easyDITA automatically saves all your work in the background while you're working. Now, I don't mean to bring up sore subjects, but when was the last time you were working on a project, you put in hours of effort only to have your entire system crash? Maybe you lost some of your work, maybe you lost all of it. The point is that now with easyDITA automatically saving in the background, you can have that peace of mind. Now, before we come to a close with this webinar, there's just one more function that I really wanted to show you. Users can now drag and drop topics or even submaps and rearrange the map hierarchy. This can even be done while other users are working in that same document. So you can simply drag, drop, move around, switch the order, and arrange it depending on what best suits your organization's needs. So as we've gone through, we've had the opportunity to look at the way that easyDITA now enables super fast editing, fully collaborative editing across your organization. And we've also revealed some of the new advanced user functions, specifically designed for our power users. So with all that said, I hope you learned something new, and I hope that you can see some ways in which easyDITA might be a great opportunity for your organization. So with that, I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague, Patrick, and he'll be able to answer some of your questions. So thank you all for your time.
Thanks, John. As we promised, short and sweet, we wanted to just have a general overview of the system. We didn't dive into a lot of the more advanced reuse functions or any of those types of things or workflow. This is meant to really just be an introduction to the new topic authoring environment. So do look for our next set of webinars that are going to go into the new easyDITA release in further detail. But now we're going to jump into and take some of the questions from the audience. So the first question I have here is, are there different editing modes associated with privileges? Meaning, a user with viewing privileges would not be able to get an editing mode. And the answer to that at a high level is yes. There are a number of different ways to restrict which things a user can do from an editing mode's perspective. So that can be either the user's role, it can be permissions, or it can be based on workflow. So there's a number of different ways to configure it, and it depends largely on what the best configuration for your organization is going to be. Our next question is, does the editor work with specialized DITA content? Absolutely. So easyDITA has always been very compliant with the DITA standard. So we support everything in DITA out of the box, URI spec, no modifications. There's no easyDITA flavor of DITA. It's pure DITA. But we can also handle any form of specialization. So if you have highly specialized content, as long as it falls in line with the general rules of DITA and how specialization should be handled, that content will work in easyDITA once your grammars, so your DTDs or your schemas are uploaded. And then you may need to do some configuration of the authoring environment to style your new elements in a way that is going to be most attractive and most usable to your end users. But we do have an SDK to support that. So if you're doing things like adding in typed elements, those can be integrated with drop-down lists or with taxonomy. If you're doing things with dates, we have date picker widgets. So there's a lot of widgets and helpful things behind the scenes that can actually not only work with your specialized content, but it can make your specialized content easier for your end users. Our next question is, what happens when two users are trying to change the same element simultaneously? So it's very much the same experience that you can expect in Google Docs. So if you're on the same line and you're typing, one person, just naturally is going to be ahead of the other person, and their content's going to flow together. And it's going to be, you're writing, the other person's writing, maybe there's a third person writing, and all of your changes will flow in line. So behind the scenes, we're actually using a methodology that's very similar to Google Docs. It's a very advanced system for collaborative editing. It's not simple diffing. So simple differencing has issues like that, where changing the same element at the same time can have issues. But the technology that we're using doesn't have issues with that. So that is supported and should work as expected. The next question we have here is, has the individual topic editor changed in the same ways, as in opening a topic on its own in the content library and not from a map? And the short answer to that is yes. The new topic editor also works the same way that the map authoring environment works, except it's on just a single topic. So when you open up a topic in the new topic authoring interface, what was the preview before is now just the authoring environment. So it's very fast to get in there and just begin working on your topic. There's no delay. It usually loads in less than a second. So again, keeping with that speed, easyDITA is going to make the process of getting into your topics very fast and very easy to do. All right, next question we have here. Are the schematron scripts extensible? Can power users, perhaps consultants, add new checks? Yes, absolutely. So the schematron is just, it's just the schematron standard, nothing special there. We don't have any kind of UX for modifying the schematron, but if you're someone who understands schematron as it's written as XML, or probably more accurately kind of a flavor of XML, XSLT, then you're more than welcome to write schematrons and integrate them with easyDITA if you have the proper privileges. The next question is, this is great. How soon before we can have this in our environment? That's probably a question for your customer success manager. We are in the process of rolling this out right now, and there's a number of variables that go into when it's available in your customer instance, and your CSM will be able to help get that scheduled and work with you to make sure that it, it's a smooth transition, because as you can see, it is a significant transition for a lot of writers, changing their workflow, and it's obviously a very positive transition, but we just want to make sure everything is handled smoothly. Okay, next question. Next question is, will this require easyDITA logins for reviewers? So as it is the same as it is today, yes, you'll have to have an account to come in and contribute or review. If easyDITA is set up to integrate with your single sign-on system, as it is for many of our customers, I'm not sure if it is for this individual or not, that can be configured so that it will automatically grant a user review privileges if they have the right single sign-on privileges as managed by your ID management system. So in that way, you don't have to manually create accounts for reviewers and contributors, but they will still end up with accounts in easyDITA because you want to have their names next to things and all that good stuff. Next question was also, when can you expect to have this? And same answer, you should consult with your customer contact. Okay, next question. Can we resize the side-by-side editor? I can only see about half the markup without side scrolling back and forth. Yes, the slider bar in the middle can be resized. Obviously, there's going to be some limitations just based on the size of monitor you have. I have rather large monitors, so when I put it up on one of my bigger screens, I can generally see everything, and it's a really nice experience. When I condense it down onto just my laptop monitor, it's a little more cramped. There's no doubt that's true. Oftentimes, what I'll do there is I'll actually just reduce the zoom on the browser itself. So because easyDITA is a browser-based application, one of the benefits of that is you can just do command or I think control on Windows, minus or plus to make it smaller or bigger to fit your needs. So sometimes I'll just reduce it down just to get a little more space there. And then, obviously use the middle slider to see more of the topic. Next question. Are there notifications possible if I am an editor and a content author makes a change on a document that I manage? So notifications can be set up. Currently they're a configuration, and they can be set up based on a number of different factors. One of the things that people will often have in notifications is they'll just use the activity stream to see changes in documents. So that wasn't demonstrated here today because it's not new. It's been around for quite a long time. But you can see all the activity on a map or a submap or a topic under the activity tab. When you're looking at a map, it will include all of its dependencies. So that's a really easy way to catch up with what's been going on that map or that chapter. Just kind of scroll through that. And often that's a little bit easier than getting notifications in your email or those types of things. But we can configure it to set up to send emails or pull reports. That's another option that some of our customers use. They'll have status reports to show you what's changed since a certain point in time or relative to your work or whatever else fits your workflow. So short answer, yes. Long answer, we can fit it to what you need, so you should talk to us. Okay, next question. Is there an option to show all the element tags in the author mode? Yes, but not just yet. So this is the first release of the authoring environment, the 2.0 authoring environment. The next release will have a full tags on view. We have a beta of the tags on view that can be enabled if you want to work with it now, but we're not enabling it by default in the first version. It just hasn't had quite enough testing yet. Internally, some people are using it already and they're happy with it, but it's one of those things where we just feel like it could use a little more testing before we put it out there. So if you get the new authoring environment deployed to your system and you would like the option of testing the pseudo tags mode as one of the view options, just let us know, and in most cases we can get that turned on for you. Okay, next question. Can you see changes in text identified by user? Yes, so if that user is using the track changes mode, their user will be associated with those changes in the text. If they are not using track changes mode or those changes have been accepted, then you can go and you can run differencing on the document, but differencing is point in time differencing. So that's a function of our history system, which has not changed since the current version of easyDITA, which is deployed to most of your instances if you're a customer. which is the 17.x version, whatever version that is right now. And that does not associate changes directly with the user in all cases, but it attempts to as best it can. Next question here. Hi, Patrick. This is awesome. Hi, thanks. Is there a way for a reviewer to add an illustration within the suggestion mode? If not, any plans for that capability? That's a great question. And yes, we are planning to upgrade our image handling for contributors and reviewers. And as a part of that process, we'll be revamping our annotation system, which I know that is something that you use quite a bit. So we're hoping to, well, we have to rebuild it, frankly, because it's a totally new environment. So we will be rebuilding the annotation system and making it much nicer and much easier to use. And it will include it'll include functions to make sure that contribution and review are well accounted for inside of that system. That's not available just yet, but that is something that's it's kind of on the bottom of the list, but it's on the list for the 19.1 version, which is coming out when we get back into our standard release cycle next year. So it will be at the end of Q1. So hopefully that makes it into the 19.1 version, but I can't promise that just yet. And that's something that we can you can talk about with your CSM offline. Okay, let's see here. Okay, next question I think is actually kind of an addendum to one of the other questions that was on here. So example, changes identified by the color and the user's name. And yes, so if you have multiple users in a document, it's very much the same way that Google Docs works in this. So you got like 4 people, you're gonna get 4 different colors. We've done our absolute best to make those colors work for people who are also colorblind, so struggle with colors. So color in terms of the editor is a weekly debate here as to which shades of which colors we should use. So we've tried to pay a lot of attention to that and make it really easy to identify who's done what and call that out to users. So when you start using it, please provide us some feedback and let us know if there's anything we can do to improve that. Let's see here. Okay, next question is, how are attributes and image attributes and such added? There is a side panel similar to the current editor with attributes in it. It's been rearranged just a little bit, but otherwise, functionally speaking, it's effectively the same. It's pretty simple to use. It's a list of attributes. If you understand the DITA attributes, it's going to be very familiar to you. It's kind of the common system that is used in all the editors these days. So probably not a lot of innovation there, but it works nicely. And it points at your element. It's got those nice arrows that everybody loves so much, myself included. Next question is kind of a general business question, I think. Is DITA helpful in small and mid-scale environment? Depending on the environment, yeah, absolutely. DITA can be a big win for small high-tech firms, especially in B2B space. So when you look at doing content deployment to multiple channels in a consistent and potentially multilingual setup, DITA is still a great tool set for that. So I was actually just having a conversation with someone yesterday who's, they're not a small organization, but they're not a big organization by any means. And, when you look at their situation, they need, basically marketing and engineering and the writers to come together to put together, installation guides and the website and spec sheets and user manuals. And, they've got one product that comes in like 40 varieties. So it's always kind of that, like we just have a little bit of a difference in our audiences and those all need to be represented in all those places. And that's a perfect business case for DITA. It doesn't really matter how big you are. Being able to easily create and manage that content has a huge amount of value and is going to show you ROI just regardless of the size of your organization. And if you'd like to see that in practice, please feel free to reach out to us. I think you'll find that we try to be very educational in our interactions. So, we're happy to talk through that with you. Okay, what kind of actions can in the WYSIWYG editor can break the XML tagging? Theoretically, you can't. One of the things that we test for is the ability to use the WYSIWYG editor freely without actually damaging the underlying structure. So we spent a lot of time on this. We have an enormous number of unit tests. I'm not going to tell you that it's impossible because I've been in software way too long to ever make that statement. But in general, I think you'll find that it's going to be very difficult for you to break the underlying XML tagging from the WYSIWYG perspective, especially in kind of a vanilla DITA situation. So something that hasn't been customized or configured. So I think you'll find that it's pretty solid. Okay, next question. In the XML view, are there prompts and suggestions for the next allowable tag? That's a great question, and the answer is not yet. But that is on the list for next year. Probably not a 19.1 requirement. I think that's not going to make it into that particular release, but it is something that we will be doing in the 19.x release cycle, which is obviously the 2019 release cycle. We're really looking forward to adding, a fuller set of tags on and pseudo tag support. So we're really spanning the entire breadth of people who might be working with XML content. So thank you for asking that. That's a great point. Next question I think is a bit of a repeat. Is the properties tab still there for attributes? And the question is yes, it's still there. It's effectively the same thing. Next question, is there a way to preview or render different output types while writing using advanced mode? So that's an answer. It's a question with a relatively short technical answer and a very long philosophical answer. easyDITA's editor is very configurable, and effectively the configuration is done with CSS and XSLT. And so in that way, and there's that view dropdown, which is configurable as well, and that's done with an XML configuration file. You can change what the user sees, but we are pretty adamant in not wanting to ever have those changes try to reflect output. That's because what we're trying to set our customers up for is long-term content scalability success. And what that looks like long-term is output to voice devices, to chatbots, to knowledge bases, to support systems, to APIs, to PDFs, sometimes to other hard formats like ebook and even print in some cases. And there's just no real good way to preview all of those things. So what we really try to focus on is write your content, focus on your content, and then have other workflow which validates output. And as best as you can, try to separate those things and keep them in such a way where they're not impacting each other. I understand that's not possible 100% of the time, but most of the time we can get to a point where those two things have a really nice hard separation. And that's where a lot of your efficiency comes from when you look at your ROI calculation. So anyways, kind of a long answer. I could talk about that all day or all night over beers if you ever bump into me at a conference. It's one of my favorite topics. So, we can chat about that more later if you'd like. Let's see here. Next question. Can you rearrange the attributes to something other than the alphabetical order? That's a great question, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't actually know, but you specifically have my email address, so send me that email, and I'll try to get back to you on that one. Okay. Next question is, if you would like to try it, can you set it up remotely? And the answer is that easyDITA is a 100% web-based software as a service, and we have a free trial form on our website. So if you just go fill out a free trial, one of our very helpful customer success people will get in touch with you, usually same day, If it's after our business hours, it's oftentimes the next morning, and they will get your trial set up, and they'll help you get some content in there so you can try it in a way that feels real to you and is valuable. So feel free to reach out to us. It's we'd love to help you out. Okay. Let's see here, a couple of comments there. I'm going to try to skip them. Okay, so another question is, in the new editor, can you merge the topic to another branch? I think this is a pretty specific question coming from somebody who's used one of the functions in our legacy editor, which is the ability to click the merge button while the editor is open and perform your merge to other branches right in that same workflow. And the short answer is no, that is not available yet, but we will have a workflow for that in the very near future. So there were just a couple of workflows that were the less common workflows that didn't quite make it into the first release. I'm sure you can sympathize with us. This was an enormous amount of work, and we had to leave a few things on the table, but that will be coming down the pipe very shortly. Let's see your next question. Okay, in the WYSIWYG view, are there prompts and suggestions to next allowable tag? Yes, absolutely. So there are key commands, and there are also buttons. So you can use the short keys to insert next allowable tags, and those can be inserted intelligently, which will put it basically the next place it can go. Which is really helpful for like inline elements or adding a block element after where you are at your current cursor location. Or you can actually change it so it will go up the document, so it'll insert before, or it will append, which is really nice if you're a power user. You know exactly where you want that element to go. I use that sometimes. I think it's a really nice function. We also have key commands while we're on the topic for adding all your different reuse elements, so conrefs, keyrefs, conkeyrefs, all those types of things, those pull-up pickers and type aheads. We'll dive into those more on the fuller webinar that discusses the full release, and we'll do a kind of a deep dive in those features. But if you want to see them before that, we can definitely show you those things on a private demo with one of our CSMs. Okay, so lots of questions. That was great. I really appreciate all of the questions from everybody. They were really, really great and really well thought out. It was a lot of fun. So I think we're at the end of our list here. If anybody does have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. There's a contact form on the website. I know a lot of you who've asked the questions here personally, so you can always reach out to me. I love hearing from you. And then any of you who are customers, I'm sure you have a personal relationship with one of our CSMs, and they obviously want to hear from you, not only for feedback on this and questions, but to get your rollout scheduled, hopefully in the very near future, so we can get this into your hands and get you working on it as soon as possible. So thank you for your time today. It was really great from both John and I. We're going to sign off, and we'll talk to you all very soon.